pass it over to Earlene.
Thank you, Erica. And thank you, everyone, for the opportunity to share the longitudinal employer household dynamics products with you. When I started promoting LEHD in 2010, we had 2 data sets and 3 data tools. Now we have 5 data sets and 7 data tools. First, I'll start with a brief introduction to the LEHD program and its resources for some. I'm sorry, can somebody put their phone on mute? Thank you. So now we have 5 data sets and 7 data tools. First, I'll start with a brief introduction to the LEHD program and its resources for some of you who don't know. Then I'll briefly introduce our products, and then we'll go over most of our data tools with quick demos and real LED in action type examples. So unlike the American Community Survey and the Economic Census, the Longitudinal Employer Household Dynamics program is not dependent on survey responders. LEHD is a unique link between employer and employee data for the U.S. Of course, you cannot talk about LEHD without talking about the Local Employment Dynamics, or LED, which is a voluntary federal-state partnership that was developed in 1990 with just a few states. Its main purpose is to merge employee data and employer data to produce a collection of enhanced labor market statistics with state-of-the-art confidentiality protection. Under the partnership, states send their unemployment insurance, or UI, wage records and their quarterly census of employment wage data, or QCEW, to us, which then is combined with censuses and surveys to create new dynamic information on workers to produce public use data products as well as microdata for research. The UI records give us jobs data, the QCEW gives us firm data, and our person data comes from censuses and surveys. LEHD has 5 different data sets with 7 applications for easy access to these data sets. Each data set, along with each data tool, is unique in its own way. If you are curious about employment, hires, separations, turnovers, and earnings, you would look at Quarterly Workforce Indicators, or QWI, utilizing the QWI Explorer or LED extraction tool. This data set is also accessible through the Census Bureau API. If you want to look at employment for detailed and customized geography, you would look at the LEHD Origin Destination Employee Statistics, or LODES data, using OnTheMap or OnTheMap for Emergency Management data tools. One sidebar, OnTheMap for Emergency Management is the only data tool in the LEHD program that has data from other federal agencies along with population data. If you want to look at statistics on job mobility across state boundaries or industries, transitions between jobs by timing and firm or worker characteristics, or earning changes due to job changes, you would use our job-to-job or J2J flows data using the J2J Explorer. One of our newer data sets is the Post-Secondary Employment Outcomes, or PSEO. The current release includes the university system, public institutions in Colorado, Michigan, and Wisconsin. This experimental data set reports earnings by institution, degree field, degree level, and graduation cohort for 1, 5, and 10 years after graduation. Future releases will include more post-secondary institutions. Finally, we just released our new data set, Veterans Employment Outcomes, or VEO. This new experimental data set reports earnings and employment outcomes for U.S. Army veterans 1, 5, and 10 years after discharge by military occupation, rank, demographics, industry, and geography of employment. In addition to the data tools, raw data downloads are available along with LEHD microdata for approved projects through our secure census research data centers. This is an article that used the QWI data set to talk about how baby boomers are working longer, and studies have actually shown in some cases that they are earning more. Some theories about why the elderly are working longer could be to pad their retirement funds or to actually recover from the recession. Using the QWI Explorer, we'll look at earnings and industries for those 65 and above. In this screenshot of the QWI Explorer for the state of Washington, we can look at the employment count from 2006 to 2016 for those ages 65 to 99. In 2006, for those 55 and 99, there were 56,955 in healthcare and social assistance. 10 years later, for those workers, the number doubled to 107,583. Let's go live to QWI Explorer and play with this example and look at the age-friendly industries. All right, hopefully you can all see that I am at the LEHD webpage. And the easiest way to get there is lehd.ces.census.gov. And all of our applications are accessible on the left-hand side where it says Applications, but you can also go to the Applications tab and you can click on that. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the QWI Explorer and pull it up. And then here, I'm going to actually change the geography level to Washington. And then I'm going to keep the employment, the indicator to employment counts. And then I'm going to change the quarters date to NAICS sectors. And then I'll get a setting conflict and I'll just click on continue. And then I am going to click on the group, and I'm going to change that to age. And we're just going to look at, I'll click check none and uncheck all that. And then we're just going to look at 65 and 99. And then we're going to change the quarters to 2016 and 2006. And then sometimes the little blue thing disappears, so I have to minimize my screen, and then I'll go ahead and maximize it again. So now we can see the industries that the 65 and 99 are going into. And if I just double click this, it actually sorts it. So now we can see what the age-friendly industries are, which is healthcare and social assistance, education, and retail, which are the top three. Sorry, I'm trying to jump back to the PowerPoint. Okay, sorry about that. All right, well, being from the state of Washington, I just want to say that Zillow loves LEHD and LEHD loves Zillow. So maybe there are a few Zillow people among the attendees today. And I'm going to talk about two ways Zillow has used LEHD. The first example is how they combine the LODES data with Zillow data to determine the housing impact due to Amazon's first headquarters, or HQ1. And the second story is how they looked at home values due to Facebook's 2012 IPO, and finally, where are they leaving California to go to? First, let's talk about OnTheMap and all its functionalities. OnTheMap is a web-based mapping and reporting application that shows where workers work and where they live. It provides companion reports on age, earnings, industry distribution, race, ethnicity, educational attainment, and sex. We have data from 2002 through 2017 for most of the 50 states, including DC. We can customize the selection area as low as a census block with disclosure protection. And input-output reports are available, which means you can import and export shapefiles and download and print reports. On the right are maps made by Zillow using Zillow data and loads. In 2012, Amazon decided to build their first headquarters adjacent to downtown Seattle in a nitty-gritty industrial area called South Lake Union. Over the years, this area has become a tech hub with high-rises, fancy restaurants, coffee shops, and green spaces. Though Amazon is the main contributor to this area, Google, Microsoft, Facebook, and REI all have offices in that area. The maps on the right shows the concentration of those who work in the two census tracts comprised by Amazon HQ in 2015. The map on the far right shows the workers from 2011 to 2015. Zillow layered their rent data to find results that the tech boom may have been the reason for increased rent by 17% in the Seattle metro-wide area. Using the OnTheMap, those employed in the area equal 38,101. Those working in technology equals 5,762. And this is for tracks 72 and 73. So let's go live to look at this. It's funny, you have to double click on it. You have to stop sharing and then you have to share. Anyway, here we are. So if we go back to the LEHD homepage, on the left-hand side, you can see OnTheMap right here as the third bullet. I'm gonna just pull this up. So I went ahead and entered Seattle, and then I clicked on the base map, which is up here in the top left-hand corner. And I went ahead and put in, for the base map, I clicked on the census tract so we could see the census tracts for 72 and 73. So I'll go back here to the selection tab, and I clicked on Draw Polygon on the left-hand side under Drawing Tool, and I made a little polygon shape around 72 and 73. So this is pretty advanced for OnTheMap, but I figured you guys all in Washington are advanced. So I'm going to go ahead and just make sure that when you're doing this, in the Add Layer selection, it says No Selected Layer. So we just want to look at these two census tracts, and I'll confirm selection. And then a pop-up comes up. It tells us how many square miles we're looking at and how many census blocks are in that census tract. So everything on OnTheMap or any of our data tools are so intuitive that things are gonna pop up and you're gonna be like, oh, that's blue. I think I'll click that. So I'm gonna click on this blue Perform Analysis in Selection area. And then the analysis settings comes up, and then we have 4 columns. The first column is a choice. You can look at where workers live and where workers work. I'm going to go ahead and change it to home to see how many people actually might live in that area because the article talked about rent. And then under the analysis type, we're just going to keep it at area profile. Area profile is an overview of the whole selected area. Area comparison is where you can compare age, you can compare geography, you can compare earnings, you can compare race, education, and anything you would like to compare. And then distance direction tells you how many miles people are traveling to work in the selected area and what regions they're coming from. Destination tells you where they're coming from. So we can look at the different destination types. We can look at zip codes, we can look at counties, we can look at places, we can look at states. And it goes all the way down to census tracts and census blocks. And then the last one here is the inflow-outflow. And so the inflow-outflow tells us how many people are traveling into the selected area, how many people live and work within the selected area, and how many people travel out of the selected area. The next one is year. So you can choose 2017 all the way down to 2002. You can choose more than one if you'd like to compare. And then the job type, currently it defaults to private primary jobs, which is the private jobs that brings home the most income. Initially, we used to have primary jobs because that also included federal employees, but currently we don't have that data, but we are going to be adding it in the next couple months, hopefully soon. So as I said, I changed everything. I changed the homework area to home. We have area profile. We're looking at 2017, and we have private primary. And then down at the bottom, there's this go exclamation point with a lightning bolt. So that means let's go ahead and click on that. So automatically the map comes up, and just to let you know, the blue area, so we have a legend on the left-hand side, and the legend shows the density. So if I go ahead and unclick point overlay, you can see what the density is for that selected area. And the legend shows that the lighter the color, that's between 5 to 360 jobs square mile, while the darker the color is 5,699 all the way up to 8,901. Now, if I go back and put on the point overlay and take off the thermal, now we can look at the jobs per block. So we can see that there are 1 to 5 in the tiny little points, while the largest points are 263 to 511. And I know that looks tiny on the screen, but you can always use this ladder to zoom in to see it more, or you can, play with the map and make it larger that way too. So here on the right-hand side, we can see that there are 7,094 workers that live in the selected area. And then we can see what their age groups are. And then we can see what their earnings are. And then we can see the different industries in that area. So we can see there's a lot of retail. And then we can scroll down and we can see all the other different areas. So 37 is retail, 37%. And then we have 2.38%. And these are just, again, the people that live there, not the people that work there. Okay. And then up at the top, we have a bar chart. We have a help in documentation. If you need some lessons on how to go into there, you can reload it, and that sets the whole map all together. Text only is for 508 compliant. And if you have any questions, there is an email down at the bottom that you can submit your questions to. All right. So in another example regarding post-Facebook IPO in 2012, Zillow researchers used the same method in finding out home values in Menlo Park, home to Facebook headquarters, by combining weighted index of home values and LODES data set. The results show that home values have increased nearly 30,000 in that area. Another thing to think about in the forecast is that Uber, Lyft, Airbnb, and Pinterest all went public also in San Francisco. So another data set, as I was saying, used by Zillow was the job-to-job flows data set. Since the J2J data product is unique we created a J2J Explorer to help users interact with the data. There are 40 different measures of worker reallocation, and users can visualize one or a set of these through 6 different modules, all of which have flexible dashboard interfaces to help them look at the exact type of job flows they're interested in. Any visualization they create through the application can also be exported in a report to Excel or CSV. The data is available at great levels of detail. Users can look at the breakdowns of flows by geography, industry, and/or firm characteristics for not only the jobs that workers left, but also for the jobs that workers started or both. We call this origin and destination jobs. They can also look at breakdowns of flows by worker demographics, such as sex by age, sex by education, or race by ethnicity, and the data is updated quarterly. So once upon a time, it was about earthquakes, fires, and floods, but now people are leaving California because it's just too expensive. Using the J2J raw data set, Zillow looked at adjacent metropolitan areas that California were leaving to go to, including Dallas, Vegas, and Phoenix. In this graph, the green line are the people moving out of California into these metropolitan areas, and the blue lines are the affordability axis over a decade. That's how much cheaper in percent of income it is in each of these markets. So you see, in general, during the mid-2000s housing boom, as Southern California home values increased very quickly, the affordability advantage of each of these markets kind of accelerated and picked up. So at this time, this article came out, at the time the article came out, the metro areas were not yet in the application, and Zillow used the raw data that allows metro areas along with earnings. However, since time has passed, the application has been updated to include metro and earnings, but we are going to just keep it simple and use states. So though majority of workers went to Texas, Washington was the second largest state that workers in professional, scientific, and technical services left California for. And here, using the J2J Explorer, we can see information and professional, scientific, and technical services for the 2 higher industries that those who left California and moved into Washington went into. All right, let's see if we have time to try to play with that just for a bit. All right, going back to the LEHD homepage, I'm going to click on J2J Explorer. We're going to look at hires or separation from, no, we want to look, yes, separation from California. And then we'll go ahead and click on which state. And there you can see if we hover over Washington State, we can see that in Q3, there were about 7,367 jobs that came from California that went into Washington. But the surrounding states were about 5,125 for Oregon, Nevada was 6,000, Arizona was 7,000, almost 8,000, and then, of course, Texas was about 11,000. But I encourage everyone to go ahead and go in there and play. We don't usually have too much time to explore while we're doing the webinar because there's so much to show you. So then moving right along, OnTheMap for Emergency Management has been named mission critical by the Department of Commerce. That means if anything should happen, such as a shutdown, the application will continue to be available to the public. OnTheMap for Emergency Management can be used to access or assess workforce impacts, It can identify the number and location of affected workers and industries. It can also assess population and housing impacts and identify the number and location of affected residents. It can also be used for emergency preparedness and response planning and answer questions such as, where should response efforts concentrate? And are there special or vulnerable population segments? It tracks tropical storms and hurricanes, floods, freezing temperature, and snowfalls, all from data from NOAA. And OnTheMap for Emergency Management also tracks fires from the Department of Agriculture and Department of Interior. And finally, disaster declaration areas from FEMA. Combined with census data, ACS, Decennial, and LODES. So recently, OnTheMap for Emergency Management had a small facelift. Since many of the states were being declared a disaster declaration area due to COVID-19, the blaring orange space was taking over the map shown on the left side. We updated the base to an opaque orange with a choice to click on the type of disaster event the user would like to look at. Using DR 4481, which is a COVID declaration, let's go live to look at the vulnerabilities. All right, once again, from the LEHD homepage, I'll click on OnTheMap for Emergency Management. And now we're looking at a live feed. So you can see that the red flames are fires. The orange preservers are the FEMA disaster declaration areas. The yellow houses are flooding. And then the green wind swath are tropical storms and hurricanes. So you can always click on any of the events. You can click on the events in the left-hand column, or I'm just going to type in DR 4481 and see when I type it in, a box comes up, and then we can see DR 4481, and we see that it is part of the COVID-19. So some of the vulnerabilities we can look at, such as the social vulnerabilities, we can see what the age groups are in that selected area, which is the state of Washington, of course. But we can see disability status by age. And if I click on that and then click on with a disability, the map updates, and we can see what the darker shades are, which is 1,219 to 7,200 that are in that area with a disability. And we can see 18 to 64, and then 65 years and over. If we want to look at the physical vulnerabilities, we can look at value of owner of occupied housing. So, when we're looking at not this one particularly, but if we went into the decennial, we could see what is rented and what is owned. So we can see those that might be out of work due to COVID, that might be struggling to pay their rent. So this gives you a total of that vulnerability. And then, of course, the social vulnerability just comes from our LODES data. So we can see workforce living in the event area and workforce employed in the event area. Then finally, if I click on this, it'll take me straight to the FEMA FEMA website, and then it tells us what the declaration is, and then it gives you a little news release on, what's happening, and then you can even download some shape files to put into OnTheMap and then do more research. All right, So moving right along, PSEO is an experimental tabulation that highlights employment and earnings outcomes for college and university graduates. By matching university transcript data with National Database of Jobs, PSEO provides annual earnings of graduates in the 25th, 50th, and 75th percentile and traces graduate movements from post-secondary institution, degree level, and degree major to employment by industry and geographic labor markets. Transcript data is provided to the Census Bureau by higher education systems and individual colleges and universities through data sharing agreements with the Census Bureau. The current release only includes the University of Texas system, public institutions in Colorado, University of Michigan, and University of Wisconsin-Madison. But future releases will include more post-secondary institutions such as CUNY and SUNY from New York, and all of the state of Texas and Pennsylvania. Just to let you know, I know you're all wondering, there have been talks with Washington, but we are still working that out, but just to let you know, they are on our radar. So last year, the University of Michigan published an article that highlighted professional services and healthcare as their leading industries of graduates 10 years after receiving a bachelor's degree. The article looked at alumni employment and geographical statistics using the PSEO data from 2001 to 2015. The top industries of their graduates who received bachelor's degrees across all fields for employment after 10 years were professional, scientific, and technical services, healthcare and social assistance, educational services, finance and insurance, and manufacturing. In the article, an example about English majors from the University of Michigan's top industries are education, professional scientific and technical services, information, and healthcare and social assistance. This example mirrors the article. The article also mentioned how many graduates stayed in Michigan and how others left and where they went. The bipartite chart from the PSEO Explorer gives you a data visualization of the article. So let's go back to our website. And I'll go again to our homepage, and then I will click on PSEO Explorer on the left-hand side, and that'll take us straight to the PSEO page. So here, we're just looking at the 5, 10, the 1, 5, and 10 years for graduates out of the University of Colorado, and we can see business administration, management, operations, and how much they're making after graduation, after 10 years of graduation, which is $90,424. And then we can see also psychology majors, they make about $54,378 after 10 years. But we want to go ahead and look at the example from the article. So I'm going to go up here at the top on the left-hand side where it says data type. I'm going to click on flows. And then here where it says state, we'll click on Michigan. We're going to keep it at baccalaureate, and then we're going to keep all graduation cohorts, but then we want to look at destination flows so we can see where people are going to. And then we're going to click on 10 years because that's what the article looked at. And finally, we're going to click on percentage because percentages are so much easier to look at. So then I'm going to try to scroll down here. I'm going to clear selection, and we're just going to look at English language because that's what the article looked at. I need to move this box out of my way. So here we can see that the degree program was English, that the top was educational services, then was professional, scientific, and technical services, healthcare, and information. And then we can see that 25% after 10 years stayed in Michigan, while 19% went east-north, central, and then 17% went mid-Atlantic, and then about 13% went to Pacific. Okay, see how easy that was? So going back to the PowerPoint, and we're going to finish off with our last data set and data tool. So we just released this at the beginning of the summer. It's the new Veterans Employment Outcomes data set. The challenges faced by military veterans transitioning into the civilian labor force are a subject of ongoing concern to policymakers. These statistics are generated by linking veteran records provided by the U.S. Army to national administrative data on jobs at the U.S. Census Bureau. Coverage of the data is all enlisted soldiers in the Army who completed their initial term of service and were discharged between 2000 and 2015. There were about 650,000 veterans. Coverage includes Army veterans' labor market outcomes like PSEO for 1, 5, and 10 years after discharge by military occupation, rank, demographics such as age, sex, race, ethnicity, education, industry, and geography of employment. Although VEO currently covers only Army veterans, these statistics could potentially be expanded to other service branches. Here is a view of veterans' employment outcome for 1 year post-discharge of earnings for the infantry and armor and amphibious in the 25%, 50%, and 75 percentile. The 25, 50, and 75 percentile are based on performance. Those who are higher performers would make money in the 75 percentile for those chosen professions. Here, we can look at 10 industries that veterans go into and their earnings per industry for those in the 50 percentile, 1 year after discharge for a timeline of 2000 to 2014. Those who worked in the mining industries from 2012 to 2013 peaked at 80,000, which makes sense because that's when North Dakota had an oil boom. Next was utilities and information, then finance and insurance, wholesale trade, manufacturing, and construction, all clustered together. Finally, on this slide, you can look at employment totals and 10 industries veterans went into post one year discharge. In 2000, employment was at its highest with retail, trade, and manufacturing at the top of the list. Let's try to go live to show you how the tool works. Okay, so once again, if I click on the LEHD tab, and then I'll go all the way down to the bottom on the left-hand side where it says PSEO Explorer, I'll click on that. And then here we can see what was on the screenshot, the infantry general, and then armor amphibious general, but I'm just gonna change the occupation, and we're going to go ahead and look for air traffic controller. So if I scroll down and I see air traffic controller, I'll put that in, and now we can see 1 year post discharge that those in the 25 percentile make about 25,270, while those in the 75 percentile make about 61,960. So then we can look and see what happens in 10 years after discharge. And we can see that the air traffic controller, the total goes up about, 30,000, so they make about 91,270. All right, well, these web-based analysis and visualization tools provide accessibility to the data for a wide variety of user needs and levels of statistical expertise. Many of our stakeholders are more likely to use web-based tools that download and manipulate raw data files. Along those same lines, these types of applications ease users into sessions of data exploration. Exploring the data is an excellent way to learn the intricacies of the statistics and to discover features that you might not have tested otherwise. Analysis tools also help to provide real-world context for the data by enabling easy comparisons over time, geography, and characteristics. This contextual perspective often comes about when playing with visualizations of the data tool. Visualizations change the way we understand the statistics, led directly to greater insights, which can lead to more relevant and impactful storytelling. We also use these tools to promote our data partnership and products to all stakeholders and to expand understanding of our data throughout the federal statistical system. And last but certainly not least, we build these tools for our state partners. We value our voluntary partners and hope that these tools significantly improve access to LED data and help to streamline data process in their states. So with that, I thank everyone for being here, and I am ready to take any questions.
There's a question, this is Erica, there's a question in chat from Wei. How do LEHD stats stack against the ACS or CPS, for example, on industry and occupation distributions?
So there's no comparison to the data. They're very simple. I mean, they're very different. It's like apples and oranges, but there is a document that writes about the differences between the two. And if you send me an email, I am happy to send you the link to that document.
Can you talk a little more about the source of the LEHD data?
Sure. So we have partnerships with all of the states, and they send us their unemployment insurance wage records, and we also get their QCEW. So we take that, we combine that with some IRS information and some census information to create the data set.
And then, Earlene, one of the questions, could you post the main website address again?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I don't think I actually put it in my PowerPoint, but I will go to the web page.
And I should add that that the slides from today will be shared in the recording.
Yes. So it's lehd.ces.census.gov, and that'll take you to our homepage.
And then another, Earlene, how quickly is the FEMA data posted to LED?
So I'm not really sure about that question. I know that we update the NOAA information every 6 hours, but I'm not sure about the FEMA how soon that gets posted. But I can find out for you, and I can get back to who's asking that question.
It was me.
Oh, Barb. Okay, I will get back to you and let you know.
I meant NOAA, the NOAA data.
Oh, you meant NOAA. Okay.
Yeah.
Then every 6 hours.
When you were shown where the fire and the flood damage was more in that venue, so that would be NOAA data. Correct?
Yeah. Thank you. Good. I don't have to send you an email. So yes, every 6 hours.
While we're waiting for additional questions, I'd just follow up that last week's presentations have just made it to the STEM SDC website, and I was about ready to send out an email probably later today. And I would expect that the slides and the recordings for today's session will be no later than early next week. Does anyone else have questions for Earlene?
Well, please feel free to, contact me if you feel that you would like to have, an individual training of some sort. Just let me know, and I'm happy to walk through any of the data tools with you.
Yeah, nothing's coming in chat, Earlene.
Great. Super. Okay, then. Well, thanks again, everyone, for joining me on my last FY 2020 webinar. Hope you all enjoy your day.
Thank you, Earlene, for joining us today. We always appreciate your presentations, and there's a lot going on in the LEHD world, so it's always good to see the newest and latest trick and tool.
Right. Great.
Oh, here.
Okay. Oh.
So, yeah, and if you could share the paper comparing LEHD and ACS CPS with me, then I can share it with the entire group.
Oh, awesome. That's Erica, right? That's
you,
right?
Yeah, this is Erica. Sorry.
Okay, cool. No, I got you. Okay, I'll send it to you, Erica, as soon as I get off.
Okay, that sounds great.
Okay.
So one last minute, if anyone has questions. Otherwise, I believe our next speaker on the COVID Hub will be joining us at 10:10, so we can break until then, and then I guess Barb and Heidi, I don't know if we should come on at 10 to make sure our speaker has joined us?
We don't have to disconnect.
Okay.
We'll just stay right on.
Yep, I'll stay on.